What's up everybody, it's Puria with the Curated Content team. I recently got a set of Michelin Pilot Sport All-Season 4s for my Pontiac Solstice GXB, and I've been driving it around, testing it in different sort of driving scenarios and conditions and weather conditions. And I just wanted to do a quick video review to share my thoughts on it. Now, to be honest, I originally wanted to go with a Michelin Pilot Sport 4S for better performance, obviously. But when I found out that these are the standard tires that come with the CA Corvette Stingray, I thought, well, I'll give them a shot. And after having them installed a couple months ago, I wanted to be sure to test it in as many different scenarios as possible and gather as much information as I could. So I'm going to talk about how these tires do in city driving, in freeway driving, and also obviously driving up on the canyon roads and how they perform traction wise. Also, these being all-season tires, I wanted to get a good feel of how they do in wet weather driving. So I got a good few miles of driving it around the city in the rain, on the freeway, and also up on the mountains to see how they do. For me, there's always a lot of emphasis on the visuals and just the first impression of looking at the tires. I think Michelin does a really good job of designing their sidewalls. I don't think there's any mistaking that these are Michelin tires, and I feel like the design of the Michelin sidewalls is really cool looking. As far as the look of the treads, the tire treads themselves, not a huge fan, but then again, they're just all-season tires, so what can you expect? Now you might be saying, well, the Solstice doesn't really have any groundbreaking power for me to be able to test the traction in acceleration. And you'd be sort of right. The Solstice GXB out of the factory had 260 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. It weighs around 2,900 pounds. But my car has a aftermarket ECU tune that gives it 320 horsepower and 345 pound-feet of torque. And that puts it at around a similar power-to-weight ratio to the current Camaro SS. With that being said, the majority of the traction that I'm going to be using of these tires is around the corners. This car has perfect 50-50 weight distribution, so it does a decent job going up the twisties, and it's a pretty good test for tires as far as traction is concerned. As soon as I got the tires installed and I started driving it around, I was just blown away by the massive difference in the ride quality from my previous tires. Now, granted, those were not necessarily the newest tires, but still, even when they were new, the ride quality is just not even comparable. As a driver of a car that is designed to make you feel all the little bumps and cracks in the road, I think I'm in a qualified position to speak about ride quality, at least the part that the tire is responsible for. So in that category, the Michelin Pilot Sport All-Season 4s are just so good. And in normal city driving, as far as acceleration or turning within reasonable boundaries of the law in the city, the tires do okay. There's no points of complaints there. So that takes care of city driving. Now let's pull right into the freeway and talk about how the tires do on the freeway surface. And I've been driving it on the freeway a lot, trying to get a feel for how it compares to the previous tires that I've had, and also trying it out in the rain on the freeway, see how it does. Another area where I'm really impressed with the amount of feedback that you get from these tires from the surface of the freeway. You just kind of feel the vibration of the surface in the car. But with the all-season 4s, I feel like that's pretty much gone. It's a huge difference as far as the amount of vibration that I feel in the cabin. And this is a convertible, obviously, and even if it wasn't, not a lot of noise cancellation. It's not really a luxury car in that sense. There's a lot of external audio coming in, so these new all-season 4 tires eliminate a lot of that for me for this car, and that's really good. I'm honestly impressed by that, and I'm happy that I got these tires. I do a lot of driving on the freeway, so it'll pay dividends over the next 20,000 miles or so. So now let's head over to the canyon roads and talk a little bit about the performance of these Michelin Pilot Sport all-season floors. Like I spoke about before, I found out that this is the same tire compound that is used for the standard CA Corvette Stingray. So I knew that I wasn't just putting on any average all-season tires, but I also knew to manage my expectations because it's still a set of all-season tires. When it comes to the performance, the traction, I was obviously not expecting anything to the level of the Pilot Sport 4S, and probably not even anything close. And I'd heard from other people that it's close in performance to the Pilot Sport 4S, but it's not quite there. And I think that's a pretty fair assessment of it, but I just had to try it for myself because I'd been driving on the Sumitomo tires for so long, and I just wanted to get a feel for how these tires do up here in the twisties. And to be honest with you, the performance and the traction that I get from these tires slightly exceeded my expectations. I was kind of just expecting okay performance from them, but they do pretty well. Like I even drove it, obviously it's an all-season tire and it's supposed to do well on the wet weather terrain, but driving it up here on the twisties when it was raining and there was some areas where there was ice on the road, the tires just handled it like a champ. Like it almost felt like it wasn't even raining at all. At first I was trying to be cautious and didn't have too much faith in the tires, but the more I kept driving, the more I realized that there's so much more force that I could be putting into these tires and they wouldn't let me down. Impressed from the standpoint of traction around the corners as well as acceleration, but also very thoroughly impressed in the performance of the tires under slippery weather conditions. I really wanted to get a set of tires that would help me really take advantage of the performance of this car, especially around the twisty mountain roads. So when I was presented with the option of going for the all-season 4s, I was just kind of like, okay, like it'll just be a slightly better set of all-season tires. But I'm actually very pleased with my decision because the tires do a really good job of really allowing me to extract significantly more performance from the car than I could do previously. That's all I wanted. They'll give me the daily driving practicality that I need, but they'll also provide for enough performance when I come up here on a weekend. So good. And there's just no sign of understeer whatsoever. So to sum it up, I would say that I'm pretty happy with these tires and how they provide a nice balance between daily driving and performance. Also check out my written review on ls1tech.com where I go more in depth and give these tires scores on all these different driving categories and conditions. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.